Hello, this is Max Straker. Just want to talk about a little anomaly that I've actually found in Pandas, and that sort of caught me out a couple of times, and now I've got a solution. But it's just one of those things. I didn't pick up on it, and I pushed all the data in, and then I found out that I could be messing up the database that I've got. So this is reading a database in on my server, and this is Google. I think it's going to be called Lookout or something. But anyways, Google Data Studio, which you can actually use, so that you can actually get a date range and select date ranges and actually get the data out on things once you've got the queries coming through. So this is just a dashboard that's coming through, and as I'm going through and querying it, I'm seeing that there's data missing, and there's a couple of ones through here. Now, one of the ones that I actually ended up doing was I actually had a large gap of data on one of my sensors that I needed to go back and grab some information for. So I looked at where those gaps were, and did a big query on it. So I suddenly thought, it's from this point here to this point here. I've got some funny little step happening there. So I'll actually just say, from the 11th of November through to the 17th, and I just blow everything away that's in the database, just bring it in clean. And so I feel confident on what I've actually got. So I've identified an issue where I'm missing some stuff. This particular API that I'm using through here, I can actually do historical data. Another one which I'm doing, and I will be talking about APIs and some of the challenges of that, I wasn't able to do that. So I wrote a quick script on this, and suddenly I just made a list of the dates, because what I ended up doing was I ended up just firing the APIs off. So I made a list of the API calls, and it just said from this date through to this date, in a 24-hour period, just do an API call and grab me all the data that you can actually get through that. So it was a couple of loops that was just goes through, and it comes back with a JSON file for each of those. So if we look at that, and here's these JSON files that we got by date, of all of the information inside those files. So we got the data coming back. We've now got to manage that data. So the next thing I needed to do, and I thought, that's going to be painful, is that there was something like 44 days worth. So I'd then have to do an insert. I'd have to write I've got another script that just does a Python script that just goes and inserts into the database that date information. And I was suddenly thinking, well, that's an awful lot of calls or fiddly bits that I've got to do. Why don't I actually just get the JSON information from each of those files and append it to a previous one? So this one here was I suddenly saying, well, these are the date ranges that I've got. So all I really need to do is actually just bring those dates into a pandas, loop through, or just go down the list inside the pandas, and open up the next file under the next name of that, which is the Aqua plus whatever one it was through there, as it's stepping through, doing that loop, that it would then go and open up the second file, append it to the first file, close the second file, go to the next line, open up the next file, go and do that, and it just do this continuous append all the way through. So I was only that, well, then I actually only need to go and do one insert into database, and boom, for that point in time. So I thought, well, that's the way to do it. So you're suddenly thinking nothing too complicated about that, just nice and simple. So that's what I decided to do. When I started to do that, I got all of the file into the one format with all of the information. I went to upload it, and it just rejected. It just wouldn't commit to the thing. And I was suddenly thinking, why? And then I actually looked. So as I was tracking back, I tracked it back to this point here. And the issue is if I run this script here, and I just run it at this point in time here, we get the file, and I think I renamed it, so it's this one here. When I've got this file through here, you see it's gone through the dates, the night, so it's October 21, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31st. Then instead of that, it's then flipped over the day and the month. So it's now the January 11th, February the 11th, thing. So it's reading the wrong way around. It's actually inverted. It does this up to the 13th. So from the 1st to the 12th, it's actually putting the day before the month. And the first time I came across this, I thought, oh, I've stuffed up something. So if I try to push that in the database, I'm pushing the date stuff into the wrong location. So that's a bit scary. Now, the other thing I just want to point out with that is when I run that script, I'd actually normally do something like the data frame head or something like that. And when you look at the head, it looks fine. You know, so I've got the 19th of the 10th, 20th of the 10th, 21st, 22nd, that's fine. But so this is why, to a certain extent, I like writing to a file or to a clipboard and just pasting and just having an overall peruse of the data after it, because I found I've been caught out with this before. Now, the first time I did this, I suddenly thought, oh, bugger. So I thought, oh, this is something I can actually do in Excel. In fact, I'm actually doing it inside Google here. So inside Google, I actually just did a mid-split on here, because instead of, you know, what I could have done through here is I could have, I'll just do that back, oh, no, 39. Let's just select all of that, and I'll just delete. And I just delete the first two columns. One of the things that I could actually do through there, delete columns, is that I could have actually just gone in and got my CSV file, wherever it was, I think it was that one there, and Control A, copy, got it into whichever one you want, Google or Excel, Google Sheets or Excel. And then when you come into there, you can actually just go, I think it's data, split text to columns through there, and then you've actually got your data in the separate columns as to which ones you want to do, and then you can start managing on this. But when I actually start to play with the date in the date format, suddenly it starts inside of, I think, both Google Sheets and Excel, it manages it as a Unix timestamp. So suddenly it goes all haywire when you start doing things. So you're suddenly saying, well, okay, then I'm going to copy those, copy the columns, and then I'm just going to paste them, paste special values only. But a lot of the times, and so you see there, when it's pasted the date, it's gone and changed it to the Unix timestamp type thing. So, or whatever timestamping method that they actually do on some of the things. So again, you can't manipulate those ones there. So that's why I've left them in the string rather than splitting the text. So I just sort of say, the first time I'd split it into different text, and then I had real trouble getting it into that formatting thing. So what I could then do through there is that I could then split the year, the month, and the day, and then when I come round to here, I actually just concatenate them together. So I concatenate that plus I think the dash, and then plus that, and then I get it in that order. Now when I've got the date number, I go concatenate that plus the month, number 2, then the dash, then the day, and then I can actually get it so that it's actually in the correct format, and then I can paste that back into, or I open the other thing up as a CSV and paste that column so that the date format is right, and then I could upload it. But it was a long, tedious process, and I sort of, it happens sometimes and it doesn't. And again, something like when you're using Pandas, it has all of these other little things that you can do, but you don't add those features in unless you actually need them. So I come across this and I did a bit of a search on it, and the solution is a simple, you put inside. So the first thing I'm doing here is, the first one, I'm just making a data frame, and I'm saying read the list and make the column head called date. So it's just making that first list through there. Then I'm changing that date to a date time. So this second point here, without this part here, is changing that date to a date time. So that's whatever you need to do to do that. But if you put date time first, so I'm now going to change this to a number 2. So the first one does that odd thing which switches those around. Now, if I run that script again, Control Shift and run, and we look at the result of that, which is Aqua 2, you will now see that it's come through correctly. So the warning on this is, one, if you're playing with dates, don't assume that the dates are going to be in the format that you want. Go and actually have a look at your data, because if not, it can actually start putting stuff, like instead of actually putting it in the month of October, it's actually going to, in the month of November, it's going to start putting it, it's going to start putting it into January, February, March, April of all of this other rubbish of where you don't want it. So it's going to do this scattering of some of your data into places where you want, which is not what you want. So just be careful of that one. And again, all it is using that one little comment in through there, which is day first equals true. Again, I hadn't used it at all, but then when I tried to manage this, so this was going through and doing this. So what I ended up doing was I ended up splitting the file and taking the end and the beginning and putting them all right into one file and taking the middle bit out, and I suddenly think, I'll deal with that separately. And I started to deal with that, and I was suddenly thinking, no, I'm sure other people have actually had this problems. And there's a few things on Stack Overflow which actually talk about this one, and then somebody just writes this little one-line comment, and you're suddenly thinking, suddenly it's wonderful. So because my database, I've got environmental information, so that I've got to do my primary key in the database is looking up by date. So the date is quite important that I do get that right. Otherwise my primary key goes haywire because I'm stuffing things in all the wrong places. So fortunately with this, it broke on as it when I tried to push this file up. It broke when I found and identified what it was. I could send the other data up to the beginning and the end of the thing, and then I could deal with this separately. And as I said, at the end of the day, I suddenly thought, well, no, I won't send the other data up there. I know I can, but I won't. But I'll see if I can find that solution through there. So and another, so now a lot of times I would actually be writing things to files, but now I've actually just found this data frame to clipboard, which I find really handy, because you can just quickly paste it into anywhere and just do a quick check on your information. And a lot of the times that's what that's why I prefer the file name, because then you've actually got you've cast your eye over the whole data set of whatever you're doing and transforming, rather than just the head and the tail, because this is what wasn't being, I didn't pick this up at all on that particular one through there. So I hope that's the thing. So the just put date time day first equals true. I don't know if it actually works if I actually put date first equals false. Let's try. Save and run. And that's going to go to path 2, which will just so that should be 2 again. Now if you put the false through there, oh no, I've got looking at the wrong one there. Oh no, I am looking at the right one. So that was the one that is just written to. It doesn't work, so it actually needs to have day first equal. But anyway, you can play with that. But it's either true or false. Save, run, and there we go, and that's working there. I wonder if I held out enough time for that, so I'll just go back and call you 3, and we'll go false. Save, run. There we go. No, it doesn't. So you've got to have day first equals true, and then that will work. So be aware. Thank you very much for watching. Hope it's of help to you.